Now that the NBA is officially back, there's a bunch of storylines and ideas that are going to pop up in fans' minds. But one thing that is 100% true is the fact that the Western Conference is going to be an absolute dogfight. We're only a couple games into the season, but there are so many teams from the 1 to 10 spot that could change throughout the season. The Eastern Conference is also very good, but after those first 5 to 6 teams, it definitely gets a little weaker. And in the West, that just isn't the case. So let's dive into how scary the West truly is and who the best players in the conference will be for the rest of the season. Even though the West is stacked, there's still teams that aren't going to win a bunch of games or who will disappoint people. So let's look at the bottom of the conference. Even though Lauri Markkanen is really good, the Utah Jazz are not going to be in playoff contention by the end of the season. They have some nice young talent on their team and they could be good in a couple of years, but for now, it's safe to say that they aren't competitive in the West. The same goes for a team like the Portland Trailblazers, who have some nice young talent, but it's pretty clear they're not ready to compete for a play-in spot. Surprisingly, after that, there's some question marks about who will finish at the bottom. If I had to make an educated guess, I would say that the Clippers will be nowhere near the playoff, but their team is actually pretty solid and who knows what James Harden has left. And another team who fans have mixed reviews on so far is the San Antonio Spurs. Some people think they're going to be bad again like last year, and others think that the CP3-Wemby combo could actually get them into the playoff. Let us know in the comments what you think the Spurs will finish at. Personally, I think they'll miss everything and finish as under the 10th seed in the West. After that, there's some other talented teams in the West, which bumps a really solid Houston Rockets team to the bench. They have potential to break through and make a playoff push, but since the West is so talented, I had to have them missing the mark. So here's the official projected 15 to 11 seeding for the Western Conference as it stands right now. The Trailblazers snag the bottom spot at 15 while the Jazz follow at 14. After that, the Clippers take 13 and the Spurs take 12, even though Wemby ends the season off great, and he's considered by everyone to be one of the absolute best players in the league. And then the Rockets sit at 11, which is considered a big disappointment amongst fans and members of the team. Now that we highlighted the teams that are going to miss the playoffs, let's talk about the play-in spots for the stacked West. I want you guys to keep in mind that all of these teams that are about to be named are probably going to be solid squads. In the East, it gets a little weaker after the top 6, but the play-in for the West could actually have a team that makes it to the Western Conference Finals. One team that I definitely don't see getting farther than the play-in is the Golden State Warriors. And I know they have a history of excellence, but it's not going to happen this year. They lost Klay Thompson in the offseason, and even though they got Buddy Hield, I don't think that's much of a change. They're also having trouble with Jonathan Kuminga right now, and Stephen Curry is having some ankle problems, so I don't think they'll be very high this year. I think the Pelicans might also fall into the play-in because even though they have a bunch of talent, I don't know how they'll fit together. DeJounte Murray seems like a weird fit with New Orleans, and Zion's health is always a question. Brandon Ingram is a dog, but if Zion isn't 100%, then this squad can't do much. This is when it gets really tough, and I feel bad saying it, but the Kings have to fall into the play-in. I think they're a really good team, and with the addition of DeMar DeRozan, their offense is a lot more dynamic. But there's some questions about their spacing, and in today's NBA, that's not a great question to have. The last team that won't be guaranteed a spot in the playoffs but will fight is the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis was awful last year without Ja. Having him back is everything for this team. The adjustment period back to NBA play for Morant and the toughness of the West might have them at a slower start, and that could be the entire difference. How it's going to play out in my mind is Golden State squeaking in with the 10th seed while the Pelicans secure the number 9. Following them will be the Memphis Grizzlies, who finish in the 8th spot, and the Kings, who have the best chance of being a top 6 seed, taking the 7th. If a team makes one of the top 6 seeds in this conference, it's an accomplishment on its own. So let's break down who those teams are. The Denver Nuggets make it in the top 6 teams out of respect for Jokic, but their team has been struggling and will probably continue to. They're relying on a bunch of unproven NBA players to crack their rotation, and that could be really tough. And Jamal Murray has definitely been playing a little different than last year, and not in a good way. Jokic is enough to keep them afloat, but this team has some question marks moving forward. The Lakers have had a great start to the year, and that's really because of JJ Redick. He's been drawing up plays that Darvin Ham never even thought of, while the players seem to buying into his system. Even though LeBron James hasn't been the best on offense, Anthony Davis looks like an MVP candidate right now, and this team is playing beautiful ball. The Timberwolves made a huge trade this offseason, sending Cat to the Knicks for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. It's too early to know who won that trade, but either way, Minnesota has enough to snag a top 6 seed for sure. Anthony Edwards is a star in this league, and I don't think he'd let them fall into the play-in, especially with shooters all around him. The team that Anthony Edwards beat last year is also going to make the top 6, and that's the Phoenix Suns. I'm sorry, but they just have too much talent to be bad. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant is a top 5 duo in the league easily. You combine that with Bradley Beal and some solid role players, there's no way they miss the playoffs. Luka Doncic and the Mavs shocked the world last year by making the finals, and even though there may be a bit of a slump to start their season, I think they'll definitely snag a top 6 spot. Kyrie Irving was awesome last year, and they're arguably a better team, picking up guys like Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, and Quentin Grimes. And then finally, the team that I think will win the West and make it to the finals is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I really can't find a weakness with this team, and after getting another year of experience, I think they'll be great. Their offseason pickups were arguably the most impactful in the league, and Shea has a legit shot to win the MVP. So with all that in mind, here's how the seeding should shape sleep out. The Lakers should do enough to stay out of the play-in with the 6th seed, and after that, the Mavericks will once again go in as a 5 seed. The 4th seed will be the Minnesota Timberwolves, and finishing right above them will be the Denver Nuggets at 3. The Suns end up figuring it out and snag a top 2 seed in the Western Conference, while the OKC Thunder take the 1 seed. Now that we have the seeding for the conference, we can predict who the best players will be from it and what award winners will be from the West. But first, comment down below what you think about the Western Conference seeding. Did we get it right? We can get it out of the way now. I don't care where Denver finishes. The best player in the NBA is Nikola Jokic. This year, he could become one of the only players in NBA history to win 4 MVP awards, but there's a ton of competition in the West for the MVP. Shea and Luka both finished top 3 in voting last year, with a lot of people saying one of them should have won it over Jokic. And since voter fatigue is a real thing, there's a chance that unless Jokic does something outrageous, he won't win MVP again. Even though he's not really a sleeper, I can also see Anthony Edwards making a push for MVP if the T-Wolves are good enough. Another award that I think will be handed out to a player in the Western Conference is Defensive Player of the Year to Wemby. He's a generational talent on both sides of the ball, but on defense, he's insanely versatile and honestly should have won the award last year. The Rockets themselves might have a couple award winners too, because Jalen Green was awesome at the end of last year, and I could see him winning Most Improved Player of the Year if he ups his numbers again and efficiency. Even though this rookie class is weak, Reed Shepherd has a real shot to win Rookie of the Year because for one, he'll have a chance to shine on that Houston team, and I think he was one of the most NBA-ready prospects coming out of Kentucky last year. Same goes for Zach Edey, who's actually one of the favorites right now. Sixth Man of the Year has a chance to come from the Timberwolves between Naz Reid, who would be winning it back-to-back, and Dante DiVincenzo made an insane amount of threes last year, so he could easily win it too. Moving on to the winner of the Western Conference, we already said it would be the OKC Thunder, but what other teams have a shot? I really do think the Suns will have a bounce-back year and have a chance to make the finals, but first, they need to get a competitive big man. Yusuf Nurkic just isn't going to cut it, and they don't have anyone on the bench who can fill that void effectively. If they trade for a competent big man and have Nurkic as their backup, I think they can make a run. I also think there's a chance the Mavericks go back because Luka and Kyrie are some of the best playoff performers in the NBA. They got better shooting this offseason, and their defense didn't regress either, so I expect them to be great in the playoffs like last year. Another team I think has a chance, and probably the last team, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards got tired towards the end of last year, which is why they dropped the ball, but after the experience in the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked if they made it all the way. Who knows if Julius Randle can be a 2 on a team like that, but he's had a great start to the season. You might be shocked that the Nuggets aren't listed, but seriously, I think they're going to struggle mightily this year. And I think they'll be good, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's a championship roster. And that's our breakdown of the Western Conference. Overall, I think it's a lot tougher throughout than the Eastern Conference because those bottom teams are still very good. Let us know what conference you think is better in the comments below, and as always, click on the screen for more basketball content.